Welcome to episode 2 Pulse of Cyber podcast. I'm your host, Terrence, and I'm very happy you're here with me today. We got some things to talk about. We got to get to our Feedly application, which I'll show you guys here in a moment. But we're also going to get into a Security Plus lab. Those who have checked me out on LinkedIn, you know kind of the rundown. But for those of you who don't know me and don't follow me on LinkedIn, definitely go over there and follow me and connect with me. I love having open discussions there all the time, so you can definitely find me there doing that. But what we're going to do today is we're going to go through the Feedly application, cybernews. I'll show you what I look at on a daily basis. First thing I do when I get up in the morning, I check my feed. For cyber news, incidents, breaches, vulnerabilities, things like that. But I'm also going to show you a Security Plus lab through Pluralsight. Now, I know what you're thinking. This guy doesn't have his own, lab and everything ready to go. No, I do, but recently I configured it for some pen testing, and I'm not going to be talking about pen testing until later down the line. I'm not going to get into that today, but eventually I will. For right now, though, we're going to stick with Defense Labs. So I do want to show you Pluralsight, which thankfully I have access to that, as well as a cloud guru through my employer. I just want to show you how beneficial this website is. I honestly wasn't aware of Pluralsight. I was aware of a cloud guru, and I did try that through a trial. But what I want to do is I want to show you the benefits of this, because I believe in free resources as well as paid resources, as long as you use the correct ones. So the last time I used, Coursera is one, familiar sort of upskilling and learning platform, right? So Coursera I did use for Python, I used for Palo Alto to learn Palo Alto networks. So I definitely understand a lot of people, maybe short on cash or money. I've been there, trust me. But we definitely want to emphasize here free resources, which I post about all the time on my LinkedIn. I'm always looking for free resources, trust me. I'm pretty cheap when it comes to those things too. But I also learned that there's a lot of paid resources out there that are worth it too, and Pluralsight's one of them. So we're gonna get right into Feedly. Okay, now we have Feedly. The Feedly application is an application that you can actually download for free. Yes, I said it's free. If you want to use it on your desktop, I would highly recommend downloading Web Catalog. You can go to Feedly, their website. Um, I will give you their link down in the description, along with, once we get to the lab today, I'll show you that down in the description, the links to those. So you'll have the links to the Feedly app, Web Catalog, as well as Pluralsight, so you can peruse and decide if you want to use those. So Feedly application is something I use every day, and what you see here is the cyber news article that I chose for the day, and I'll usually pick out 2 or 3 that I think will assist me with something I'm doing, for work, for my role, or something that'll just help me learn, or something that applies to my schoolwork. But that's what I do. So I'll pick out maybe 2 or 3 to kind of skim through and read and see what incidents are going on. So what you can see here is new Black Cat ransomware variant adopts advanced IMPacket and REMCOM tools. And the cool thing about Feedly is there's subspaces. So when you open something, you can decide where you want to open it. You can, show it in a pop-up window, or you can do like I do and just open up a subspace here on the left-hand side, and that'll pull up the article. And what's also great about these articles is, the highlighted portions, you can pull that into another subspace like I just did here with the article, or you can pull it up in a pop-up window and it'll tell you about Impact, and I think that's a great thing to have because, you can, if you don't know something, you can just pull it up, learn about it, understand what's going on in the incident, and apply that to the scenario. With this is a ransomware. Uh, Microsoft on Thursday disclosed that it found a new version of the Black Cat ransomware. Surprise, surprise. There's also a Monty ransomware. If you're not aware about Monty ransomware, I recommend you look that up because it is re-emerging from Conti, which happened last year. That was actually several attacks from, I believe it was April 18th to like May 22nd of 2022. And Costa Rica, the Costa Rican Republic, was actually attacked through that time frame multiple times by Conti ransomware. And that was a huge thing, millions of dollars. They hit the private, public sector there. It was devastating. And you can read more on that, but that was an interesting read. Um, but with this is a Black Cat ransomware that embeds tools like Impact and Remcom, which is basically credential dumping to facilitate lateral movement and remote code execution, which in pen test terms is persistence. For those of you who are, red teamers, offensive, you know what I'm talking about already. Um, but yeah, the credential dumping and remote service execution modules that could be used for broad deployment of the Black Hat ransomware in target environments, the company's threat intelligence team said in a series of posts on X. This Black Hat version also has the Remcom hack tool embedded. So this is a pretty good article, I believe, because it involves a lot of things. I mean, they even reference vulnerabilities here, CVE, common vulnerability exposure. You can see those and you can pull those up in new windows to check out what vulnerability it's exploiting. And I really swear by Feedly. They're not sponsoring me, like no one in this. Hopefully one day, but nobody's sponsoring me to talk to you guys about this. This is just what I use and what I've taken from other professionals that have made recommendations out there, and I find this to be useful in my day-to-day cybersecurity task and escapades. So this is very useful. I highly recommend it. All right. So with that being said, I say we move to another platform. And this platform is going to be Pluralsight. Now, Pluralsight is a learning platform, and it's very similar. A lot of you may know about Udemy and Coursera, as I mentioned earlier. This is very, very similar to Udemy, except I think this one is definitely more tailored to getting certifications and learning specific tools from industry leaders. It's very, very much tailored to the tech industry. So here you can see, they got a continue learning section, things that I've been looking into. They keep that there. Labs. I can't tell you how many labs they have. Like there's a whole list of labs here. You could just go to browse. You can go from home to browse, and then look. Just look right here: Microsoft Azure, AWS, Cisco, Microsoft CompTIA, ISC squared. You can click on this portion where it says labs. They got it kind of sectioned off and categorized for you. It's very user friendly. I think that's what I like about it so much. It's so, the UI is great. But yeah, there's a whole list of labs, over 1,000 labs. 1,000 labs. Yeah, that's a lot. And you can filter them out: cloud, data, IT ops, security, software development. It's all there for you. So definitely know that this site is worth every penny if you do decide to spend on it. And certifications. If you click on the right hand side up here in the top right, there's a whole list of all the industry recognized certifications. Now, I'm going for the CompTIA CYSA Plus here in a few weeks, so um, you can just click on CompTIA and that will pull you right here into the overview map. And I love these because, for those of you who are just getting in, you can kind of see, what kind of path you want to take here. Now, I didn't get A plus. Um, I went and got my IT degree, so I kind of satisfied that in that place. So I started with Security Plus after my bachelor's. So if we go to CYSA Plus, go to the exam prep, and that'll pull you right there. And you can see all the learning, all the resources and courses here. And there's a whole list of labs with that. And we'll get into those at a later date once I pass my CYSA Plus. We'll definitely get into that one. But in the meantime, I know a lot of you like to learn through video courses. Me personally, I'm a visual and literary learner. So if I see something done once or twice, I can, pretty much mimic that and kind of redo that lab or whatever I learned. I can kind of repeat it and reassess it in my own words. So visual and literary, I love reading. I have the CYSA Plus book here. So yeah, you can see all my notes. Making a lot of those, but I prefer that. I know it's a little old-fashioned, a little traditional. Everything's digital, but for some reason, I prefer reading. Self-taught, kind of approach along with some visual learning. So we're gonna get into one of these labs now, and what I chose here was network and host discovery. Now, the reason I chose this, I know a lot of you probably have interest in Sims and, doing things of that nature, but before you can really hit into Sims, you really have to know what you're dealing with on your network. And, the same thing goes with pen testing. They do a lot of information gathering, vulnerability scanning. They have to find out what's on the network, what are the targets, what is vulnerable. So as a blue teamer for defense, you want to do the same thing. If you go in, trying to assess vulnerabilities, you won't know what you're looking at until you know what you're looking at. So I did network and host discovery for us today. So I'm not going to go through the whole thing. I'm just going to really quickly show you how dynamic and how great this is. So we're going to switch to dark here. I prefer dark. All right. And you can see here in the top right, they're setting up the environment. Now they do this, I assume, through some type of container, and it's going to bring up an operating system, and it's going to walk you through step by step exactly what to do. And I'll show you here in a second once that environment gets going. It does take a couple of minutes depending on your speed, but as you can see here, this is going to start with nmap commands. You have to get pretty familiar with nmap commands and using the command line interface, along with the GUI. Some people like to call it GUI. I hate saying that. I'm going to say GUI in this podcast. We're not 10 years old. We're going to say GUI. We're all adults here for the most part, I believe. So GUI it is. Okay, still waiting for that environment. Now that's not normal. Maybe I should check my connection. But let's scroll down here and see what the steps are going to be. All right, once the environment is started, let's hope that occurs soon. And what it's going to be starting up is Ubuntu desktop. So there's going to be an Ubuntu desktop environment. I just noticed it said that up there. It said it takes about 2 minutes. Was that about 2 minutes? I think that was about 2 minutes. Okay, so we're going to open up the environment. There we are. We're going to open that up and see if we can get the desktop going. And look at that. We have Ubuntu desktop. So, look at that. That's amazing. I just spun that up in about 2 minutes. I think it was 3 minutes, but we'll say it's 2 for Pluralsight because they're such a good website. So you just follow step by step, and it'll give you the instructions on what to do. First, open a terminal. So we'll open a terminal window. Boom. There you have your own personal terminal. And let's switch this to side by side, shall we? Let's switch that to side by side. And there we go. All right. And it'll show you your IP address. Okay. All right, so that made it a little bit smaller, switching it over. I don't know why. I'm not sure if I like that. All right, let's enlarge that a bit. Okay. All right, so let's see if we can make this. There we go. See if we can make that a little bigger. Okay, that's obviously the desktop. All right, and you go through the steps. Use Nmap. I mean, obviously, that's going to be Nmap. A lot of your commands are going to go through there. And the first step, so you already know your IP, so they're probably going to ping another host. Okay, so you're going to scan an entire network and see what hosts are on that network. 24. Let's see. This is okay. That's a lot easier to see. I need to figure out why it decreased my resolution so much. But here we are. So there's an mmap command. You're going to scan a network, a target network, or your own network. For blue teamers, it would obviously be your own network. You have permission to scan things, and more than likely this is going to be a loud scan. This isn't going to be. Doesn't look like a stealth scan. No, it's not a stealth scan. So once we hit enter, it's going to go through that process. Just like it normally would on any type of virtual machine, or if you were there to on-prem host, it's going to do that for those of you familiar with Nmap. And let's get all right. So when we go back to the instructions, you'll see it's very, very detailed. They're going to show you what you should be seeing, which is great because there's a lot of tools out there that say, hey, do this, and they'll move on to the next step. Not with this website. This website will give you step-by-step instructions, and it'll explain everything out to you when you do the lab. So you'll come out understanding specifically what hosts you scan for here. So I really highly recommend Pluralsight, guys. It's beneficial. You can use these labs as projects of your own, maybe tweak them out, put, basically put your name on these and just put those on your resume, have something to talk about in your interviews, to other professionals and say, hey, I did this on the website, and go through and explain what you did after you learn. So I highly recommend going through labs such as this. All right, so due to time constraints, we're going to get into the next topic. Of course, we're going to be doing more of these a bit more in depth, but I do want to talk about our next segment, which is hard truths. All right, I told you first episode that we're going to do hard truths around here, and I had to learn hard truths. Some of you have learned some hard truths, but specifically in cybersecurity and the tech industry, you're going to learn a lot about hard truths. So the biggest thing I think a lot of you right now, I think, are struggling with, or at least I see, is finding your niche. Everyone has strengths and weaknesses. And whether you're coming from another industry or whether you're already, in IT, information technology, you really want to find your focus. And I found myself struggling for a few months, not knowing where or what I wanted to do in cybersecurity. I wanted to get in, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I started with GRC, governance, risk, and compliance, and I learned a lot there, and information assurance, and things of that nature. And I thought that's what I wanted to do. But at that time, I was spinning up virtual machines while I was doing GRC because I wanted to be technical, but I also wanted to understand, compliance and then policies and procedures and auditing and things like that, which is very good to know. It's good to know the baselines of those things. But I was spinning up virtual machines, and I realized, why don't I post these and post what I learned? And, here I am in cloud security, after that. So I really implore you guys, if once you find your niche and your focus, what you want to do. Now, you don't necessarily have to stay there your entire career. You can always pivot in cybersecurity, which is great. But what you want to do is find that focus, find something that interests you, whether that's, ethical hacking or purple teaming, cyber management, incident response, threat detection, threat hunting. There's a slew of, different roles and different domains in cybersecurity, which is something I love because you're going to be learning things throughout your career. So if you can find that focus and find that niche, what interests you, try and focus on that and post that information, post that on any of your socials, that you're comfortable with posting on. But I highly recommend LinkedIn because that's where I posted a lot of my projects and things. And, I got a lot of feedback from my community and my network, and they were very supportive, and it was, amazing. So hopefully you learned something today. I didn't want to make this episode, too long for you guys, but, definitely let me know, down in the comments section, subscribe. You can check me out on Spotify as well. But I really appreciate you guys coming through. I also still do need teammates for the upcoming National Cyber League. So if you are interested, once again, it is very helpful. This is something you can put on your resume. You learn a lot. It's very offensive, but you really want to learn the adversarial and offensive strategies that are used out there before you can, defend. So definitely check that out. I'll put that in the description again as well for you guys. And thank you again for dropping by. Next week, we're going to be talking about sandboxes. And I'm going to actually do my own personal lab through the A Cloud Guru sandbox. And I think you're really going to enjoy that because that's going to be a lot more hands-on. I'll spend a lot more time on there than anything like I did today. So I hope you found this video helpful. Thanks for dropping by. Keep your finger on the pulse of cyber, and I'll see you next time.